The translator's voice crackled in my earpiece, but I barely heard it over the sound of my own pulse. The Vaxtari queen sat before me on a throne that seemed to breathe with bioluminescent patterns, her 4 eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that made my skin crawl. 3 days ago, I'd been a maintenance tech on the human diplomatic vessel. Now I was kneeling in an alien throne room because I'd made a joke to the wrong person. "Repeat your statement, human Marcus Webb," the translator said. I swallowed hard. Behind the queen stood 17 of her royal guards, each one holding weapons I couldn't name but definitely understood. To my right, Ambassador Chen's face had gone pale. To my left, the Vaxtari woman I'd spoken to yesterday stood with her head bowed so low her chin touched her chest. "I didn't mean," I started. "Exact words," the queen interrupted. Her voice carried a harmonic quality that bypassed the translator entirely, resonating in my chest cavity. I'd been helping repair a climate control unit in the cultural exchange wing when she'd appeared. Beautiful in a way I couldn't quite process, with crystalline skin that shifted colors and a grace that made her seem to glide. We'd talked while I worked. She'd laughed at my stories about Earth. When I finished the repair and she thanked me, I'd grinned and said, "Service like this? I should marry you for that compliment." It was a joke, the kind of thing you say back home without thinking. She bowed, deeply, formally. Then she'd left without another word. Now I understood why Ambassador Chen had looked like she might faint when the Queen's summons arrived. "I said I should marry her," I admitted. "But it was a figure of speech. On Earth we say things like that casually." "I didn't know. You have been informed of Vaxtari customs?" the Queen asked. "Yes, Your Majesty."
"Last night."
After she bowed. "And do you understand what transpired?" I nodded slowly. On your world, when someone offers marriage, even in jest, and the other person bows in acceptance, it becomes a formal proposal, one that requires your approval or rejection. "Not merely my approval," the Queen said. Her lower set of eyes closed while the upper set remained fixed on me. Under our laws, once acceptance is given, I may only reject the union if the proposer is proven unworthy. Otherwise, I must approve, and the bond becomes legally binding within 3 solar cycles. My mouth went dry. I'm not worthy. I'm just a tech. I fix things. I didn't even know her name until yesterday. Her name is SciFi. She is my cousin. Third in line to the crystal throne, the Queen leaned forward. She has declined 17 suitors from noble houses across 4 systems. Yet she accepted your casual words within moments of meeting you. Ambassador Chen finally spoke up. "Your Majesty, surely there's a cultural exemption clause. Human Marcus had no intent to actually propose marriage. His civilization has different—" "Intent is irrelevant to law," the Queen said. "What matters is the exchange of words and the acceptance given. However," she paused, and I could see something calculating in her expression. "I am permitted to test worthiness. Human Marcus, you will undergo the trial of understanding. It begins at dawn tomorrow. You will have 3 days to prove yourself deserving of my cousin's regard. And if I fail?" I asked. "You will be declared unworthy. The proposal will be nullified. You will return to your vessel and depart Vaxtari space immediately. And if I succeed?" The Queen's expression didn't change, but SciFi raised her head for the first time. Her eyes met mine for just a moment before she looked away again. In that brief glance, I saw something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or hope. "If you succeed," the Queen said, "you will be bound to SciFi for life under Vaxtari law. You will be required to remain here. Your previous life will end. You will become one of us, with all the privileges and burdens that entails." The throne room felt smaller suddenly. The guards seemed closer. Ambassador Chen was already shaking her head, mouthing the word no at me. But I thought about SciFi standing in that hallway yesterday, listening to my stupid stories about fixing broken refrigerators on the lunar colonies. The way she'd laughed when I described accidentally flooding an entire deck with coolant. She'd ask questions like my answers actually mattered, like I mattered. No one had looked at me that way in years. "What does the trial involve?" I asked. "You will discover that at dawn," the Queen said. "But I will tell you this, human Marcus. 17 noble suitors have attempted it. None have passed. Most withdrew before the first day ended. 2 lasted until the 3rd day. Both failed." "Why did SciFi accept me?" I asked quietly. "She doesn't know me." "That question," the Queen said, "is one you should ask her. Guards, escort human Marcus to the preparation chambers. Ambassador Chen, you will remain." We have much to discuss regarding the legal implications of this situation. As the guards moved forward, I caught StoryHFY's eyes one more time. She mouthed something. The translator didn't pick it up, but I read her lips clearly enough. Don't fail. Then they were leading me away, and I realized I'd just agreed to compete for something I never asked for, against odds that would make any sane person run. But somewhere between the throne room and the preparation chambers, I made a decision. I was going to pass this trial, not because I wanted to marry a princess I barely knew, not because I wanted to leave humanity behind, but because StoryHFY had chosen me, a maintenance tech with grease under his fingernails and no prospects, over 17 nobles. And that meant something. Something worth fighting for. The guards stopped at a circular door that irised open at their approach. Inside, I could see what looked like a meditation chamber mixed with a survival bunker. Supplies lined the walls. A sleeping mat occupied one corner. Rest, one of the guards said through the translator. Dawn comes quickly. The trial will test everything you are and everything you might become. Many humans have visited our world. None have attempted what you are about to face. The door sealed behind me with a sound like a whisper and a promise. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on that mat and thought about choices and consequences and stupid jokes that changed everything. Somewhere in this palace, StoryHFY was probably awake too, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. We'd both find out soon enough. Dawn arrived with a chime that vibrated through the floor. The door opened. Different guards stood waiting, their weapons holstered but visible. They led me through corridors that seemed to shift and breathe, the walls pulsing with colors I had no names for. Other Vaxtari watched as we passed, their multiple eyes tracking my movement with undisguised curiosity. We emerged in a garden that defied physics. Plants grew in impossible spirals toward a purple sky. Water flowed upward from pools into floating streams that hung in midair like frozen rivers. At the garden's center stood a platform made of the same crystalline material as the palace walls. The queen waited there. StoryHFY stood beside her, along with a dozen other Vaxtari wearing robes marked with symbols I couldn't read. Ambassador Chen was there too, looking like she hadn't slept either. Human Marcus Webb, the queen announced, her voice carrying across the garden without effort. The trial of understanding has 3 components. First, you must demonstrate knowledge of our ways. Second, you must show capacity for adaptation. Third, you must prove your heart carries truth. Fail any portion, and you fail entirely. She gestured, and one of the robed figures stepped forward carrying a small child. The child couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 in human years, with oversized eyes and skin that flickered between blue and green. This is my daughter, Princess Coraline, the queen said. She will be your first test. The robed figure set the child down on the platform. Coraline looked up at me with those huge eyes and said something in a rapid musical language. She asks if you are the human who makes her cousin laugh, the translator said. I knelt down slowly, getting on her level. I hope so. I told her some pretty silly stories. Coraline tilted her head, studying me. Then she said something else, longer this time. The translator remained silent. She's speaking in high formal, StoryHFY said quietly, a language few outsiders learn. She asks if you know the proper greeting for a child of the royal blood when meeting them for the first time in an official capacity. I had no idea. I'd skimmed the cultural briefing packet 3 days ago, but most of it had focused on diplomatic protocols for adults. Children hadn't been mentioned. Coraline watched me expectantly. The entire garden had gone silent. Even the impossible water seemed to pause in its upward flow. I thought about what I did know. Vaxtari culture valued honesty above almost everything else. They could detect lies through pheromone changes humans couldn't control. Pretending to know something would fail faster than admitting ignorance. I don't know the proper greeting, I said carefully. But I'd like to learn it, if you'll teach me. The queen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her upper set of eyes. You admit ignorance freely? The queen asked. I won't lie to a child, I said. Not to anyone. If I don't know something, I should say so. Otherwise, how can I learn? She stepped closer and reached up, touching my cheek with tiny crystalline fingers. Then she spoke again, this time in a simpler dialect the translator caught. He is honest-faced. Cousin Sierra chose well. I will teach him to the next hour. Coraline taught me the formal greeting. It involved specific hand gestures combined with a phrase in high formal that my human vocal cords struggled to reproduce. She was patient when I got it wrong, demonstrating again and again until I managed something close enough to make her clap her hands in approval. When I finally performed the full greeting correctly, she bowed to me. A small bow, nothing like StoryHFY's acceptance, but clearly significant. First test passed, the Queen announced. You acknowledged your limitations and showed willingness to learn from any teacher, regardless of age or status. 17 nobles refused to admit ignorance to a child. They believed it beneath their dignity. You understood the lesson within the test. Relief washed through me, but I kept my expression neutral. 2 more tests remained. The second test begins now, the Queen said. Follow. She led us deeper into the garden, to a section where the impossible plants grew dense enough to block the purple sky. In a clearing stood 3 pedestals, each holding a different object. The first was a weapon, sleek and deadly looking. The second was a book bound in what looked like living leather, its pages glowing faintly. The third was a simple tool, similar to the ones I used in maintenance work. You must choose, the Queen said. Choose the object that best represents what you would bring to a union with StoryHFY. Choose wisely. This decision cannot be unmade. I stared at the 3 objects. The weapon suggested strength, protection, the ability to defend. The book implied knowledge, wisdom, scholarly pursuit. The tool represented practical skill, the work of hands, the ability to fix and build. But this was another test within a test. It had to be. I looked at StoryHFY. She stood perfectly still, her expression unreadable, but her skin flickered through a pattern I'd seen yesterday when I told her about the refrigerator flood. The pattern she'd shown when laughing. She wasn't tense. She was amused. This wasn't about choosing the right object. It was about understanding why the choice existed at all. I choose none of them, I said. The Queen's 4 eyes fixed on me. Explain. A union isn't about what I bring to StoryHFY. It's about what we build together. If I choose the weapon, I'm saying I'll protect her like she can't protect herself. If I choose the book, I'm saying I'll teach her like she's ignorant. If I choose the tool, I'm saying I'll fix her like she's broken. I met the Queen's gaze. StoryHFY doesn't need any of those things from me. She needs a partner, not a provider or protector or teacher. Whatever we become together. That's not represented by an object. Silence stretched across the garden. A breeze that shouldn't exist in an enclosed space whispered through the impossible plants. Then StoryHFY stepped forward. She picked up the tool from its pedestal and placed it in my hands. Then she took my other hand in hers. He understands, she said quietly. Better than any who came before. The Queen nodded slowly. Second test passed. You rejected a false choice and understood the principle of equal partnership. But understand this, human Marcus. The third test is the most difficult. It is the test that broke all 17 nobles. It is the test that will require you to face something no preparation can ready you for. She gestured again. The robed figures moved forward, forming a circle around us. They began to chant in a language the translator didn't touch, sounds that resonated in frequencies I felt, rather than heard. The garden changed. Colors deepened. The air thickened. I felt something pressing against my mind, gentle but insistent, like someone knocking on a door I didn't know I had. The third test is truth, the Queen said. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. We will enter your mind, human Marcus. We will see your memories, your fears, your deepest self. We will witness every moment that shaped you, every choice that defined you. You can only be exactly who you are, with all your flaws and failures exposed. If your heart carries deception, we will know. If your intentions towards StoryHFY are anything less than pure, we will see it. This is the test that cannot be studied for or prepared against. This is the test that reveals the soul. They wanted access to everything, every embarrassing memory, every petty thought, every moment of weakness and stupidity. Everyone I'd hurt, every mistake I'd made, every time I'd failed to be the person I wanted to be. I thought about running. The garden's exit was behind me. I could probably make it to the palace entrance before the guards caught me. But then I felt StoryHFY's hand tighten around mine. I looked at her and saw something in her expression that stopped my racing thoughts. She was terrified too. You're going to see my mind as well, I said slowly, understanding. Both of us. This isn't just about testing me. It's about seeing if we can survive complete honesty with each other.
That is why so many nobles failed.
They could not bear having their true selves known. They preferred the safety of masks and carefully constructed images. But a Vaxtari union requires total transparency, no secrets, no hidden corners. We live long lives, Marcus. Centuries, if fortune favors us. No relationship can survive that long, built on anything less than complete truth. The pressure against my mind intensified. The chanting grew louder. I had seconds to decide. I thought about my life. The father who'd left when I was 6. The string of failed relationships with people who wanted me to be something I wasn't. The career that never progressed because I was good at fixing things but terrible at office politics. The loneliness that had become so familiar I barely noticed it anymore. The quiet desperation of wondering if this was all there was, if I'd spend the rest of my life repairing other people's broken things while my own life stayed permanently in need of maintenance. They would see all of it. Every ugly, broken, disappointing piece. But they'd also see the moments I was proud of. The time I'd stayed up for 36 hours straight to fix life support before it failed and killed 17 people. The kid I'd mentored who went on to become a chief engineer. The small kindnesses I tried to show even when I was tired and frustrated and wanted to quit. They'd see me. Actually see me. For the first time in my life, someone would look past the surface and witness the complete truth of who I was. It was terrifying. It was what I'd wanted my entire life without knowing how to ask for it. "I'm ready," I said. The pressure became a flood. My mind opened like a flower, petals unfolding to reveal everything hidden inside. I felt the Vaxtari consciousness flowing through my memories, gentle but thorough, touching every corner of my psyche. I felt StoryHFY's mind, too, her memories interweaving with mine. I saw her childhood in the palace, the expectations placed on her from birth, the suitors who saw only her title, who spoke to the princess but never to the person underneath. The loneliness of being admired but never truly known. The moment she'd heard me talking yesterday, telling stories that weren't designed to impress anyone, just honest accounts of a life spent fixing broken things. The way my voice had carried no calculation, no hidden agenda, just genuine human warmth and the willingness to share something real. She'd been waiting her entire life for that, for someone who didn't want anything from her except the pleasure of her company. Our minds touched, memory overlapping memory. I felt her joy and her sorrow. She felt my regret and my hope. We became briefly, impossibly transparent to each other. Then the chanting stopped. The pressure withdrew. I was back in my own head, but I carried the echo of her thoughts like a melody I'd always known but never heard. I was on my knees. So was StoryHFY. We were both breathing hard, hands still clasped together. Our skin, mine pale and scarred from a dozen small accidents, hers crystalline and perfect, pressed together with a rightness that needed no explanation. The Queen stepped forward. She studied us both for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried something I hadn't heard before. Approval tinged with sadness. "I see now why you chose him, cousin," she said to StoryHFY. "And I see why you chose her," she said to me. "You are both deeply alone, both waiting for someone to see the truth beneath the surface, both willing to offer that gift to another." She raised her hands, and the robed figures bowed. "Human Marcus Webb, you have passed all 3 tests. You demonstrated humility and willingness to learn. You understood partnership over possession. You opened your heart to scrutiny and survived the exposure. Under Vaxtari law, I approve this union. You and StoryHFY will be formally bound 3 days hence, as tradition requires." Vaxtari voices raised in what might have been celebration or might have been mourning, I couldn't tell. The translator had given up trying to keep pace. Ambassador Chen pushed through the crowd. Her expression was complicated, mixing happiness with professional concern. "Marcus, do you understand what you've done?" she asked. "You can't go back. Earth, your career, your family, all of it ends when you accept this bond. The Vaxtari don't permit divorce. This is permanent." "Are you absolutely certain?" I looked at StoryHFY. Her mind was no longer open to mine, but I carried the memory of that connection. I knew her now in a way that went beyond words or time. I knew her fears and her dreams. I knew what she needed, what she offered, what she hoped a partnership could become. "I'm certain," I said. "Your family should be contacted," the Queen said. "They have a right to know you are choosing a new life." "I don't have much family," I said. "My mom died when I was 20. My dad, we don't talk. There's a sister somewhere, but we haven't spoken in years. The crew of the diplomatic vessel is the closest thing I have to family." "To the ceremony," the Queen decided. "Ambassador Chen, you will make the arrangements. This will be a union unlike any in Vaxtari history, the first between our species. It must be honored properly." The next 3 days blurred together in a rush of preparation, ritual, and overwhelming culture shock. I learned 17 different formal greetings, the proper way to eat Vaxtari food without accidentally insulting the cook, and how to wear ceremonial robes that kept trying to adjust themselves to my body temperature. I met StoryHFY's family, dozens of them, ranging from children like Coraline to elders whose crystalline skin had deepened to the color of twilight. They all studied me with varying degrees of skepticism and curiosity. Most were polite, a few were openly hostile. One elderly uncle told me bluntly that I would fail, that humans lacked the constitution for Vaxtari marriage, that I would break my wife's heart within a year. I didn't argue with him. I just listened and nodded and thanked him for his honesty. By the end of the conversation, his hostility had softened into grudging respect. The crew from the diplomatic vessel came for the ceremony. Chief Engineer Ramirez hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. "You absolute idiot," she whispered. "You beautiful, crazy idiot." Be happy. The ceremony itself took place in the throne room where everything had started. The space had transformed, filled with lights that floated without support and flowers that sang in harmonics I felt in my chest. The queen presided, speaking in high formal, while the translator whispered meanings in my ear. I stood beside StoryHFY, both of us wearing robes that cost more than I'd earned in my entire life. She was radiant. Her crystalline skin displaying patterns I'd learned meant joy and nervousness mixed together. The vows were simple. We promised truth. We promised partnership. We promised to face centuries together with honesty as our foundation. When I placed my hand in hers for the final time, I felt that mental connection open again. Not as intense as during the trial, but there. A permanent thread linking us, allowing emotions and sometimes thoughts to flow between our minds. She was happy. Terrified, but happy. So was I. The queen pronounced us bound. The throne room erupted in celebration. And I realized something that made me laugh even as my eyes burned with tears. I'd spent my whole life fixing broken things. But I wasn't here to fix StoryHFY, and she wasn't here to fix me. We were both already whole, just lonely. All we needed was someone brave enough to be completely honest, to show every crack and flaw and still choose each other anyway. That night, in rooms that would now be ours together, StoryHFY and I sat by a window that looked out on the impossible garden. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. The connection between us carried more than words ever could. "Do you regret it?" she asked finally. "Giving up your old life?" I thought about Earth, about the cramped quarters on the diplomatic vessel, about the endless cycle of repairs that never quite satisfied me. Then I thought about the mind I'd touched, the person I'd seen beneath the princess exterior. Someone who understood loneliness. Someone who valued honesty above comfort. Someone who'd chosen me not despite my flaws, but because I'd shown them freely. "No regrets," I said. "Not one." She leaned against me, her crystalline skin cool against mine. "Good. Because you're stuck with me for approximately 300 years, if the medical scans are accurate. That's a long time to regret a joke." I laughed. Best joke I ever made. Outside, the garden's impossible plants swayed in a wind that shouldn't exist. Water flowed upward toward stars I'd never seen from Earth. And somewhere in the palace, Coraline was probably already planning her next lesson in high formal, determined to turn her new cousin by marriage into a proper Vaxtari speaker. I had a lot to learn. Centuries worth of culture and custom and tradition. But I had time. I had patience. And I had StoryHFY, who'd seen everything I was and chosen me anyway. The maintenance tech who fixed broken things had finally found something that didn't need fixing. Just someone to build a life with, one honest moment at a time. It started with a joke. It ended with a choice. And everything in between was exactly as terrifying and beautiful as it needed to be.